In 2015, Kurdish intelligence services identified a complex near the Iraqi town of Hawija that was being used as a prison by IS. Surrounded by an outer wall, this prison consisted of 2 main buildings and was estimated to hold up to 75 prisoners, including local Iraqi civilians, IS members accused of spying against the group, and men of the Iraqi army and the Kurdish Peshmerga, the latter of which was the military arm for Iraqi Kurdistan. For several months, Kurdish intelligence closely monitored the prison, and it was in early October of 2015 that a sudden increase in activity was observed around the complex, when a number of large holes began appearing in the fields nearby. Through various intelligence means, the Kurds were able to confirm that these holes were graves being dug by IS, in preparation for a mass execution of all 75 prisoners being held in the prison. With this alarming development, the Iraqi Kurdistan regional government authorized the launching of an immediate operation to secure the complex and free all the prisoners inside. However, given their lack of experience with hostage rescue situations, the Kurds passed their intelligence on to and requested assistance from the US government, who agreed to provide military support for the mission. US Secretary of Defense Ash Carter later explained that, "The Kurds informed us that they believed that there were prisoners of IS there. They were the ones who had information that this particular location was being used basically as a prison camp and seemingly planned to be an execution center by IS. I made the decision to assist our Kurdish partners after receiving specific actionable intelligence that a mass execution was imminent." Although the Americans agreed to support the rescue operation, it was decided early on into the planning that the mission would be Kurdish-led. As such, the rescue force was centered around a 48-man assault team from the Kurdish counter-terrorism group, who were tasked with clearing the prison and freeing all 75 hostages inside. Embedded into this assault team would be a support element of around 30 American soldiers from the 1st Special Forces Operational Detachment Delta, also known as Delta Force, who were to assist and advise the Kurdish troops throughout the mission. Interestingly though, the Americans had orders not to enter the prison complex, and were to leave the clearance of the objective to the Kurds. Tasked with airlifting these ground troops into the objective would be 3 MH-47 Chinook helicopters of the 160th Special Operations Aviation Regiment, whilst 2 or 3 MH-60 Black Hawk helicopters are also reported to have been used. The exact role the Black Hawks played isn't confirmed, but it is likely that they were direct action penetrators tasked with providing close air support over the prison complex. In addition, the US Air Force deployed a handful of aerial surveillance and fighter aircraft during the operation, but unfortunately, besides 2 F-15E Strike Eagles, the number and specific type of aircraft employed isn't known. Nevertheless, for around a week, this Kurdish-American force trained exhaustively for the forthcoming operation, and it was on the 21st of October 2015 that an intelligence update was received, indicating that the prisoners were to be executed in the coming days. Consequently, at the direction of the US and Kurdish governments, the green light was given for the rescue operation to be launched on the night of the 21st. From their staging area in the Kurdish city of Erbil, the ground troops boarded the 3 Chinook helicopters and flew out towards the target, which was reached at around 0200 on the 22nd of October. Preceded by airstrikes targeting IS positions in the vicinity, the Chinooks flew into and touched down on a landing zone adjacent to the prison, from where the onboard Kurdish and American soldiers disembarked from the aircraft and rushed forward through heavy enemy fire to the relative safety afforded by the outer prison wall. Here, the Kurdish assault team made several attempts to breach the wall, but when these explosives failed to go off, they were forced instead to use a couple of ladders which would enable them to climb over the wall and enter the complex. However, such was the intensity of the enemy fire being received that the Kurds effectively became pinned down and unable to move forward. Realizing this, and fearing that the raid was losing momentum, the men of Delta Force decided to abandon their assist and advise role, and instead take the initiative and lead the assault onto the objective. Among those present that morning was Master Sergeant Joshua Wheeler, who rallied a group of American and Kurdish troops on him and personally led them over the wall and into the prison courtyard. Here, Sergeant Wheeler directed his group forward and laid down covering fire so that his men could reach the first of the main buildings holding the hostages. In doing so, he exposed himself to numerous insurgent positions, and it was at some point during this action that he was hit by an enemy bullet and became seriously wounded. Sadly, despite being tended to by medics, Master Sergeant Joshua Wheeler would succumb to his wounds a short time later. For his actions on the 22nd of October 2015, Sergeant Wheeler would be posthumously awarded the Silver Star, the US military's third highest decoration. Part of his citation reads, "Master Sergeant Wheeler fearlessly exposed himself to heavy small arms fire from barricaded enemy positions. His selfless actions were critical in achieving the initiative during the most dangerous portion of the raid. Master Sergeant Wheeler's actions saved the lives of the partner force." Meanwhile, elsewhere in the prison courtyard, Sergeant First Class Thomas Payne, also of Delta Force, led another group of US Kurdish troops to the second of the main buildings. This objective was only lightly guarded by a couple of IS fighters, and after these had been dealt with, Sergeant Payne and his team cleared through the building and found 2 prison cells holding 38 of the hostages. The footage on screen now was taken from the helmet cam of one of the Kurdish soldiers and shows the clearance of part of the building and the rescue of some of the prisoners. Describing the moment his team found the prison cells, Sergeant First Class Thomas Payne later recalled, "We cut the locks on the prison doors and opened the cells, and there were over 25 hostages in one cell and probably 11 in the other. You see their faces light up, they're being liberated. Some are crying, some are excited." While all this is going on, there is still an intense firefight going on in the other building. We hear on the radio an urgent call for assistance, and that's when I looked at a teammate and told him, "Hey, let's get in the fight." With the second building cleared and the hostages there rescued, Sergeant Payne and his men moved off to reinforce the other team in securing the first building, which was not only strongly held by a group of insurgents, but was also becoming engulfed in flames, which increased the urgency with which the rescue force had to move if the hostages inside were to be freed alive. Accordingly, with the main entrance well defended by the enemy, Sergeant Payne and several other American soldiers climbed up onto the roof of the building and attempted to gain entry from the top. This, however, proved impossible due to heavy enemy small arms fire and the fact that the insurgents in the rooms below tried to collapse the roof by detonating suicide bomb vests. As a result, the US troops are forced to climb back down and onto ground level, from where they immediately made a second attempt at gaining entry, this time through breaching one of the building's side walls. Although the breaching device went off this time, enemy resistance was still too strong for the rescue force to enter the building without sustaining heavy casualties. It was at this moment that Sergeant First Class Thomas Payne decided to take point and try and enter the building via the main entrance entirely on his own. For the following actions, Sergeant Payne will be awarded the Medal of Honor, the citation for which states that Sergeant Payne moved to the main entrance where heavy enemy fire had thwarted previous attempts to enter. He knowingly risked his own life by bravely entering the building under intense enemy fire, enduring smoke, heat and flames to identify the armoured door imprisoning the hostages. Upon exiting, Sergeant Payne exchanged his rifle for bolt cutters and again entered the building, ignoring the enemy rounds impacting the walls around him as he cut the locks on a complex lock-in mechanism. After exiting to catch his breath, he re-entered the building to make the final lock cuts, freeing 37 hostages. Inspired by Sergeant Payne's actions, other members of the rescue force stormed into the building soon afterwards and neutralised the IS fighters inside. They then helped facilitate the evacuation of the 37 hostages, video of which was captured by the same Kurdish soldier who had been involved in the clearance of the second building. Besides intermittent gunfire from IS positions located outside the prison complex, the evacuation of the 37 prisoners proceeded without incident, with Sergeant First Class Thomas Payne continually taking charge of the situation and making multiple trips to and from the building to ensure everyone made it out safely. At one point, he even had to drag one of the hostages out from the prison cell after the Iraqi was overcome with fear and simply froze in place, unable to move on his own. Once the building was finally clear of friendly personnel, the signal was given for the extraction phase to begin, and by 0400 on the 22nd of October 2015, around 2 hours after they had arrived, the Kurdish American Rescue Force had embarked all 75 hostages onto the 3 Chinook helicopters and got airborne once again for the return flight to Erbil. Shortly after their departure, a pair of F-15E Strike Eagles carried out airstrikes on the 2 prison buildings to prevent their future use by IS. This action brought to an end one of the largest hostage rescue operations ever conducted in military history. Thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please be sure to leave a like and subscribe so that you never miss one of my future videos.